It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. We've got a great program for you today, so hit that share button and let us help you keep growing. Before we get started, I do want to mention that FreedomProject Academy, our Judeo-Christian classical online school, is now enrolling kids from kindergarten all the way through high school. If you're interested in a great alternative education for your children, one that is completely at home, no asexuality, no masks, no transgenderism, all you got to do is request a free information packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, freedomforschool.com. Speaking of education, parents, are you worried about the indoctrination happening in public schools? I have great news for you. There's a revolutionary new video transforming education, and it's not happening in the classrooms, understandably. Schoolhouse Rocked. The homeschool revolution follows one family on their journey to dispel all the myths and misconceptions and uncover the truth about what home education really is. Watch this short clip.
Education is discipleship, and this is something I didn't understand until I was probably 3 years into homeschooling. The Bible teaches us in Luke 6:40 that when a student is fully trained, he will be like his teacher. And as we look around the culture right now, I think it begs the question, who is teaching our children? Who is teaching our children, and what are they teaching our children? And to me, the primary benefit of having my children home with me is I am able to impart my worldview to my children.
Please get your copy of Schoolhouse Rock today. Do it right away on DVD or HD, streaming by visiting schoolhouserocked.com/FP. Again, that's schoolhouserocked.com/FP. Today we're kicking things off with our international correspondent, Alex Newman. Alex, welcome today. Glad to have you.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much, Duke.
Well, if there was ever a day and a time when we needed parental rights, a bill or authorizing the rights of parents, especially when it comes to how they are being educated, this is the time. Your new article talks about this. Talk about it, please, for us.
Well, thank you, Duke. And this trend that's sweeping the country really got started last year here in my great state of Florida. In fact, I know the legislators who pushed this through, and the idea was simple. The government has usurped too much authority over the lives of children, over the medical decisions, over the privacy, over the education of children, and it's time to restore some of that authority to parents. So they passed a law last year. They built on that later this year in 2022 with the bill that the media is dishonestly calling the Don't Say Gay bill. All it says is you don't sexualize and teach little kids, 9 and under, by the way. We're talking about first grade, second grade, kindergarten children, that they might have been born in the wrong body or that they need to be experimenting with sex or homosexuality. In my opinion, it's outrageous that we even need this kind of bill. But so what's happened, Duke, is now just in 2022, most of the state legislatures, and so, in fact, I saw one news report saying 35 different states had bills described as parental Bill of Rights legislation introduced in the 2022 session. All of them are a little bit different. No two are alike, but the overall objective is to try to restore some parental authority in the classroom over the children. It's an encouraging trend, but I see some trouble with it as well. So,
what would you say some of the problems with this kind of legislation?
Well, my biggest concern, Duke, is that this is going to give parents a false sense of security. And we're seeing this in Florida right now. You've got a lot of parents who are kind of on the fence. Should I pull my children out? Should I keep them in the government's brainwash camps? And then they're seeing Parent Bill of Rights, and they're saying, oh, okay, so the school can't hide from me anymore if they're sexualizing my child or if they're turning my child into a transgender. And this is happening all across the states. People are saying, well, I think I should probably pull my kid out, but there's a new parental rights bill, and maybe it won't be quite as extreme, so I'll just keep going for the free babysitting service. And that's my big concern. There are millions of families right now right on the edge of pulling their children out. And I think the danger, and to be clear, I support these bills. It's beyond obvious that parents need to have their rights respected. But I think the danger is that there's a false sense of security in some families who are just desperately looking anywhere for hope. And the false sense of security is, well, hey, now there's a parental Bill of Rights. Now you're going to have more control. Now the school is going to have to inform you. when really even without this radical sexualization, even without taking your kids to have a sex change, the government schools are still imparting a dangerous worldview into your children. Even the most involved parents spend maybe 4,000 hours with their children by the time they leave. The government will have almost 20,000 hours. So the danger is huge, and these parental rights bills don't actually fix that issue. They just give a false sense of security.
Yeah, understand this, Mom and Dad. They're already violating law and conscience and common sense in the public schools now. What do you think is going to happen when some legislative body says, hey, parents have these rights? When was the last time you see a union teacher fired for doing what the school tells them to do? It never happens. Do not, as important as they are to codify the rights of parents, do not expect for 1 minute that many of the schools are going to follow it. And to that end, maybe this is where we are now. I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, heterosexuality, the religious rights, the right of parents to dictate what their children do and don't do in their worldview, that was so taken for granted that we never did codify them. There has never been really a list of parents' rights when it comes to public schooling, because we always assumed that the public schools knew that the parents were the primary educators. Maybe we need to go back now and have a declaration of the rights of the heterosexual. Maybe we need to go back right now and insist upon the millennium-old arguments about how parents have the right to use religion as a main factor in educating their children. That is not at war. It is not contradictory. This is the right of parents. Maybe we got to go back and start defining everything we used to know but never had to write down.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Duke. I mean, the founding fathers put the Ninth Amendment in there just in case there ever came a time when people so lost their minds that they forgot about these absolutely basic. I mean, these are rights that are so basic. It's like the right to breathe, right? Of course, parents have rights. It was just so obvious that nobody ever thought that we needed to codify it. But what we're seeing now, like with the passage of this bill in Florida earlier this year, you have teachers coming out and saying, well, okay, we can't teach your kids about gender and sexuality. Well, we're just going to tell them there is no such thing as gender, because heterosexual is a sexuality and cisgender is a gender. So these parents, these teachers, these administrators are completely out of control. It's time for parents to resist, and the easiest, most effective way to do that is to pull the kids out.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
What an interesting week we've had. It all started with a bunch of A-listers from the political world getting the Rona, but shh, don't tell anyone. Then we've had more on Hunter Biden's laptop that we can talk about now since the election's over and cover-ups are okay in the past tense. And just so you know, Ukraine and Russia is still a thing. And so you know, consumer prices are only up 8.5%, and that's only the highest it's been since more than 40 years ago, when Biden was almost a decade into ruining others' lives through his political service. But none of that is Joe's fault.
I'm not going to wait to take action to help American families. I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the Putin price hike. We saw today's inflation data. 70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline.
See? This is inflation since Putin invaded Ukraine. Except it's not. That red oval shows inflation since Joe Biden was inaugurated. So keep telling lies, Joey. Was anyone else distracted by what was on Joe's coat?
It's not hyperbole. It's about being made in America. A lot of that has to do with this industry.
The idiom goes, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. But a bird just crapped on the president, and he proceeded to tell America it's raining. And if it really was corn silage, like Biden's communications director claims, then Joe still got a little golden shower on him. Enough bodily function talk. Let's pivot to the important things that Joe's been talking about.
And the only woman truck driver I ever knew I met that day, she said, "This is Big Mama, no room." Swear to God, true story. Swear to God. He said, "I've got a United States Senator driving my truck." She said, "I got the damn president in mind, so what?" I'll never forget that. I was a very powerful guy.
Anyway, let's get to today's question. What is the biggest pivot tactic out of the Biden administration? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And now I'll pivot by asking you to share this video so others can see all of the distractions. Now back to Joe's lying. What he said in that clip was only the second half of the story that he bumbled through, which includes now his claim of at least 3 times in the past year that he used to drive 18-wheelers. No evidence has been produced, but Joe keeps peddling the lie and media members keep massaging it for him or just letting him carry on telling the same old story.
And so during the trucker strike years later when I was a young senator, there was a guy who ran steel from Deemer Steel out to Ohio. And so I decided to ride out with him, see what it was like on the strike. And I was driving going through Shiloh, Ohio. And his handle was Big Ten. And remember, everybody, all the truck stops were being blockaded at the time during the strike. And he called, he said, Big Ten wanting to come in. I forget exactly how he said it.
You also forgot exactly everything in the story because, again, there is no evidence that Biden ever drove an 18-wheeler. And maybe it's because we are told he's all about the electric vehicles, and, you should be too.
This is a president who always talks about the power of our example. Mm-hmm. Does he own an electric vehicle?
Presidents of the United States don't do a lot of driving.
He's posted videos where he's revving the engine of his Corvette in Wilmington. He owns cars.
And he also has driven electric vehicles as president, as to give a model to the rest of the country.
Does he own one?
I think the president's record on this is clear, Peter. Presidents of the United States, current and when they are no longer, typically are not doing a lot of driving.
That's because they're so old and their eyes can't muster the strength to see distances. And yes, I know the real reason they don't drive, so you can save your comments. Anyway, that clip was just 1 month ago when Peter Doocy questioned Jen Psaki about the electric vehicles. And then we were promptly all told to buy an electric vehicle because money grows on trees. With all of that Hunter Biden cash pulled from some G-strings, I'm sure Joe could afford the $64,000 price tag for the electric vehicles. But even if that's too much to spend on a vehicle, like most people making a middle-class wage would attest, take solace in knowing you'll save money over the lifespan of the electric vehicle. Department of Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm reassured us of this little fact.
These vehicles are a gift that keeps on giving. Let me just say, as an example of electric vehicle benefits, $6,000 will be the savings for the purchaser of an electric vehicle over the course of the lifetime of that vehicle because it's so low maintenance, because there are so few moving parts.
The moving parts are what get you. That's why you find electric vehicles or robots which can be turned off. Which brings us to... Where in the world is Kamalama Lama Ding Dong? The robot that is Kamalama brings us into the charade of COVID right now. Like Joe, Kamala was also blabbering from behind a podium a few times this past week. They sent her off to a school where she could roam free and maskless, while the children must be muzzled and put on display. May as well put up the plexiglass and charge some admission.
I am so happy to be surrounded by our young leaders. I'm telling you, this is a highlight of being vice president, is to be around all of our young leaders. I'm so happy to be with you all today, and I'm so proud of you.
I guess it isn't as bad as what's happening right now in Shanghai.
There's growing outrage over the Chinese government's increasingly harsh COVID restrictions in the biggest city in China. People are struggling to get access to food, screaming on the streets in frustration. There was a dog beaten to death by a COVID prevention worker after finding out its owner was infected. And it comes as Shanghai, despite this unbelievable shutdown, saw more than 26,000 new infections on Sunday, which is a record.
But that's to be expected in the dictatorial land of China, not here in the United States. Yet mask off for all those A-listers in bigwig Washington because All for thee and none for me. And they'll be defended to the very last drop of their highfalutin drink of choice, since they are important people doing important things, like overseeing the confirmation of a Supreme Court justice.
The CDC says for people exposed to COVID, up to date on their COVID-19 vaccinations, do not go to places where you are unable to wear a well-fitting mask. So why is she here at the White House today giving the new Supreme Court justice a big hug with no mask?
You mean when she gave her a hug outside?
Yes.
She was outside.
Does the CDC say that people who are close contact can give people hugs outside?
We know, Peter, that outside you can benefit significantly being outside. That's why we had the event outside today. I will tell you that the Vice President has been wearing a mask inside. When there was a private greet, they were all wearing masks before they went up.
Wearing a mask yesterday at the Senate.
She was playing an important role in confirming or overseeing the confirmation of the first black woman to the Supreme Court.
Oh, please, tell me more about this.
Well, I would say that the Vice President and the President and all of us abide by what the CDC protocols are. It was an emotional day. It was a historic day. And there were moments when she was not wearing a mask inside, including in a photo. But she was wearing it 99.9% of the time.
It's almost like they know when the Rona is going to travel, and so they know when to not wear the mask. That logic only works in their minds. Meanwhile, the most prestigious bougie of the Washington bunch is Nancy Pelosi, all 82 years of what's left of the original body, which is not much. She done gone messed up and got the Rona. But it's okay that she was just hovering over the 79-year-old, very frail president the day before and giving him a handshake. That's not considered close contact in the eyes of the masters. And Pelosi's not alone. Attorney General Merrick Garland got it. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo got it. And just a slew of others who rank high enough to tell us all to stay masked up. Or rather, in New York City, right now, just those 2 to 4-year-olds must remain masked, thanks to the policy of Mayor Eric Adams. Oh wait, not just little kids in New York City. Looks like Philadelphia has now announced it's going to reinstate the indoor mask mandate. Well then, because doing all of these things is going to help the Democrats come November. So the Biden administration must pivot off of the things not working for them, which is to say everything, and attempt to really bust some balls by announcing a crackdown on self-assembled firearms, commonly called ghost guns.
This is the gun. It's not hard to put together. A little drill, hand drill at home. Doesn't take very long. Anyone can order it in the mail. Anyone. Folks, a felon, a terrorist, a domestic abuser can go from a gun kit to a gun in as little as 30 minutes. Buyers aren't required to pass background checks because guns have no serial numbers, these guns. When they show up at a crime scene, they can't be traced.
And where a lot of the actual gun crimes are happening have been allowed by the Biden administration and big city mayors because they don't let officers do their jobs. Cops have been told they are the problem and must stand down.
Law enforcement is sounding the alarm. Our communities are paying the price, and we're acting. Today, the United States Department of Justice is making it illegal for a business to manufacture one of these kits without a serial number. Illegal. The answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police and give them the tools and training to support they need to be better partners and protectors of our communities in need.
Oh, so cops are the ones who can protect the communities. I'm glad we can say that again. Also in his speech, Biden announced his nominee for director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives as Steve Dettelbach. He's only a former U.S. attorney during the Obama presidency because, the two of them were Harvard bros. But this isn't about him. Joe cares more about his son.
I also want to thank my incredible, supportive, and often patient family who are here. My wonderful wife, Carol, and my children, Allie and David, please.
He's 16 years old. I want to draft him.
Please don't let that be a euphemism. What we've learned this past week is no matter how bad Biden acts as president, he can't stop, won't stop focusing on his agenda that helps no one. Nobody is a better president than Joe Biden. And I mean that having nobody in the role would actually be better than having Joe Biden. Until that day happens, make sure to focus on what matters: faith, family, and friends. And if you could, please share this video real quick once. Until next time, stay healthy, America.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
So inflation is at a 40-year high, 8.5%, due in part to federal policies, including but not limited to the printing of money at disturbing levels, bad energy policy, and being overly generous with Americans' money, giving it to countries that hate America. Bottom line, people have been feeling the financial pinch. So check this out. In July of 2020, here's what Joe Biden tweeted. Quote, "You won't have to worry about my tweets when I'm president." Wow, what a relief. Things are so much better. Pardon the sarcasm, and look at America's economy today. It's corrupt government, censorship, medical tyranny, our schools, the gender surrender and delusion, the media, and our military. That's just for starters. But you've seen all the help wanted signs or now hiring signs everywhere. You've seen the skyrocketing gas prices and home energy costs. Taxes are increasing. Even according to the progressive AP, inflation has soared in the last 12 months, resulting in the biggest spike since 1981. Now, some try and argue, as the Biden administration and Democrats in the media insist, this is all the result of Vladimir Putin and his attack on Ukraine. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki calls the current economic crisis Putin's price hikes. Let's analyze some numbers. Take a look at this graph on the Consumer Price Index and pay attention. Do you see that dotted vertical line between 2020 and 2021? Well, shortly after that marker, in early 2021, the upward spike began. Why is this significant? Well, that was just after former VP Joe Biden was inaugurated and his party was granted power of the White House. So, what were some of the first things he did and his corrupt colleagues? Well, they shut down the Keystone Pipeline and had the Federal Reserve print more money so Biden could hand out record numbers of COVID stimulus checks. How did that work out? By the way, even if the left wants to spin unemployment numbers to appear low, remember a few things. Many people are no longer looking for work. Many are working part-time at home, while others had their slush money run out. Now, President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, said this: "The left is no more bothered by high inflation than by high taxation, as both undermine the private economy and make it easier to finance big government." Now, this isn't a matter of old Joe Biden not having the business sense President Trump has. This is a matter of progressive ideology within the Democrat Party, aiming to weaken the American economy, basically a war on capitalism. And many of these global socialists seem content to watch American citizens suffer. The left talks so often about compassion, don't they? So where is theirs? Especially toward low-income households, those who are hurting, those in inner cities, many of whom were already struggling. But sadly, not surprisingly, however, the Democrat narrative appears to be working and convincing uninformed and low-information voters. Check this out. Reporting on an ABC poll, the Daily Caller says a large majority of Americans blame high gas prices on Russian President Vladimir Putin. Not that we should trust the accuracy of practically any media poll, but a whopping 71% of respondents blamed Putin a great deal for the high costs at the pump, while another 68% blamed big oil for the prices, echoing another Democrat talking point. Putin and oil companies are the problem? Wait a minute, numbers please. According to Energy Information Administration data, Russian oil and petroleum imports represented just 2% of total supplies to the United States in 2021. The propaganda, however, is working. It just happens to be hurting the people and causing the nation to head down a dangerous road. Common sense would lead us to ask, why is the public support of Biden so low? Well, another poll, this one from CBS, seems to indicate the Biden administration is a sinking ship. Only 37% of Americans approve of the Democrat Party's handling of the economy. 63% disapprove. The lowest marks are for how they're handling inflation. 31% approve, 69% disapprove. Biden's approval rating is the worst CBS News has ever registered. Let that sink in. But it doesn't matter. Why? Because registered Democrats will likely vote in the next election for whoever has a D in front of their name. You know the story, it's a broken record. That, my friends, is idolatry. And I'm not suggesting it doesn't happen to Republicans as well at times, but if you strive to live according to the biblical worldview, and that's key, there is a stark, glaring contrast in morality between the two main political party platforms. The choice should be obvious, but it's not that simple. It's often human nature to hang on to things in life that aren't good for us or to change old habits, even when we have a contradiction between what we believe and what we do. Things will likely grow worse before improving, if they ever really do. But as believers in a bright future because of a sovereign God, we know He is our ultimate hope and provider, not the government. And He promises to meet all of our needs. God bless you, and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.
All right, before we wrap things up, I do want to take a moment to show some love to our Patriot Club members. Today, we give a great big shout out to Kathy from Boulder, Colorado. Thank you so much for supporting us, Kathy. And that's going to do it for the show. I'm Dr. Duke. Until next time, education, my friends. If you can find it, stick with it.